The History of the First Voyage Around the World of Ferdinand Magellan by Antonio Pigafetta. On August 10, 1519, 5 ships departed from Seville for what was to become the first circumnavigation of the globe, linked by fame to the name of its captain Magellan. Much of the expedition is known through the travelogue of one of the few crew members who returned to Spain, Antonio Pigafetta. Antonio Pigafetta is an Italian scholar and explorer from the Republic of Venice. He traveled with the Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan and his crew by order of the King Charles of Spain on their voyage around the world. Ferdinand Magellan is a Portuguese explorer who organized the Spanish expeditions to the East Indies from 1519 to 1522 to search for western route to the Maluku Islands, resulting the first circumnavigation of the earth, completed by Juan Sebastian Elcano. On March 16, 1521, Pigafetta reported that they reached the islands of Man, but Magellan decided to land in another uninhabited island for greater security where they can rest for a few days. And after the 2 days, of March 18, 1521, 9 men came to them and showed them joy and eagerness in seeing them and welcomed them with foods, drinks, and gifts. On March 25, 1521, they saw 2 balangay. Balangay is a longboat full of people in Mazawa. The leader, King Raya Shagu, sent his men to the ship of Magellan. The king offered to give Magellan a bar of gold and chests of ginger. However, Magellan declined. Instead, Magellan asked for money for the needs of his ships. The king responded by giving them the needed provisions and food in Chinaware. Magellan exchanged gifts of robes in Turkish fashions, red cup, knives, and mirrors. Magellan showed other weapons, helmets, and artilleries. He also shared his charts and maps and how they found the islands. He was also introduced to the king's brother, who was also king of another island.
Raya Calamba, the king of Butuan and Caragua. Pigafetta described him as the most handsome of all men that he saw in this place. He was adorned with silk and golden accessory like gold dagger which he carried with him in a wooden polished sheet. On April 7, 1521, Magellan and his men reached the port of Cebu, the largest and the richest of the island.
Humabon, which is the king of Cebu, demanded that they pay tribute as it was customary, but Magellan refused. Magellan said that he was the captain himself and thus would not pay tribute to the other king. Magellan's interpreter explained to the king of Cebu that Magellan's king was the emperor of the great empire and that it would do them better to make friends with them than to forge enmity. The king consulted his council, and the next day, together with other principal men of Cebu, they met in an open space, and the king offered a bit of his blood, demanded that Magellan do the same. On April 14, the people gathered with the king and other principal men of the island. Magellan spoke and encouraged the king to be a good Christian by burning all the idols and worship the cross instead. The king of Cebu was baptized as Christians. Pigafetta admitted that they burned a village down for obeying neither the king nor Magellan. When the queen Hara Amihan came to the mass one day, Magellan gave her an image of the infant Jesus made by Pigafetta himself.
A principal man from the island of Mactan named Zula went to see Magellan and asked him about full of men so that he could fight the chief named Lapu-Lapu. However, Lapu-Lapu refused to obey the king and was also preventing him from doing so. Magellan offered 3 boats and went to Mactan himself to fight Lapu-Lapu. They came down upon them with terrible shouts, 2 squadrons attacking them on the flanks and the third in front. Their musketeers and crossbowmen fired for half an hour from a distance, but did nothing. Since the bullets and the arrows, though they passed through their shields made of thin wood and perhaps wounded their arms, yet did not stop them. The islanders, seeing that the shots of their guns did them little or no harm, would not retire, but shouted more loudly, and springing from one side to the other to avoid their shots, at the same time drew near to them, throwing arrows, javelins, spears hardened in fire, so that they could hardly defend themselves. Unfortunately, Magellan died in the battle. The natives, perceiving that the bodies of the enemies were protected with armors, aimed for their legs instead. Magellan was pierced with a poisoned arrow in his right leg. Magellan was hit with a lance in the face and retaliated and pierced the same native with his lance in the breast, and tried to draw his sword but could not lift it because of his wounded arms. The king offered the people of Mactan's gifts of any value and amount in exchange of Magellan's body, but the chief refused. They wanted to keep Magellan's body as a moment of their victory. Magellan's slave and interpreter betrayed them and told the king of Cebu that they intend to live as quickly as possible. The natives had slain all their men except for the interpreter and Juan Serrano, who was already wounded. The fleet departed and abandoned Serrano. They left Cebu and continued their journey around the world. From the original 5 ships set to sail, only Victoria returned.